The train hurtled through the night, its wheels screeching against the tracks. Inside, a one-eyed, one-handed British officer steadied himself. The guards were distracted. This was his chance. Adrian Carton de Wiart had been here before, captured by the enemy, imprisoned, and now on the brink of freedom. But this time the stakes were higher. The train was moving faster. The guards were closer, and failure meant death. He had tried before, a tunnel dug in secret, a disguise that almost worked. But each time the enemy caught him, each time he was dragged back to his cell. This time, there would be no second chances. With a deep breath, he stepped to the edge. The wind roared in his ears. The ground below was a blur of darkness and danger. But hesitation wasn't in his nature. Not for a man who had survived the trenches of World War I, not for a man who had lost an eye, a hand, and still kept fighting. The impact was brutal. Pain shot through his body as he rolled down the embankment. But he didn't stop. He couldn't stop. The sound of the train faded into the distance, but the danger was far from over. Alone in the darkness, with no food, no water, and no idea where he was, Adrian Carton de Wiart faced his greatest challenge yet. But for a man who had cheated death countless times, this was just another chapter in a life defined by survival. This is the story of a man who refused to be broken, a man who stared death in the face and laughed. This is the story of Adrian Carton de Wiart. Adrian Carton de Wiart was born into a world of privilege and prestige. On May 5, 1880, in Brussels, Belgium, he entered a family with deep roots in European aristocracy. But behind the grandeur of his upbringing lay a legacy of duty, service, and adventure that would shape his extraordinary life. His grandfather, Adrian Carton de Wiart, was a prominent Belgian lawyer and judge, a man respected for his intellect and integrity. His grandmother, Marie-Caroline van der Smissen, came from a distinguished Belgian family, adding to the Carton de Wiart name's prestige. His father, Léon, followed in the family tradition of public service, becoming a high-ranking magistrate and politician in Belgium. His mother, Ernestine, was of Austrian descent, bringing a mix of Central European heritage to the family. Together, they provided a stable and privileged upbringing for young Adrian. Adrian's early years were spent in England, where he was educated at the prestigious oratory school. But even as a boy, he showed signs of the restless spirit that would define his life. While his family expected him to follow in their footsteps, into law or politics, Adrian had other plans. He was drawn to action and adventure, spending his days riding horses, hunting, and exploring the countryside. The quiet life of an aristocrat held little appeal for him. He wanted something more, something daring, something dangerous. That opportunity came in 1899, with the outbreak of the Second Boer War in South Africa. At just 19 years old, Adrian made a decision that would change his life forever. He lied about his age, enlisted in the British Army, and set off for the front lines. It was a bold move for a young man who had never seen combat, but Adrian Carton de Wiart wasn't like other young men. He was driven by a thirst for adventure and a sense of duty that would define his entire life. What awaited him in South Africa was a baptism by fire. The Boer War was brutal, unforgiving, and unlike anything he had ever experienced. But for Adrian, it was just the beginning. From the deserts of South Africa to the trenches of World War I, Adrian Carton de Wiart's journey was just getting started. But how far could one man push the limits of human endurance? Stay tuned to find out. Adrian Carton de Wiart was born into a world of privilege and tradition. On May 5, 1880, in Brussels, Belgium, he entered a family with deep roots in European aristocracy. But behind the grandeur of his upbringing lay a lineage of duty, service, and a restless spirit that would shape his extraordinary life. His paternal grandfather, Adrian Carton de Wiart, was a prominent Belgian lawyer and judge, a man known for his integrity and dedication to public service. His grandmother, Marie-Caroline van der Smissen, came from a distinguished Belgian family, adding to the Carton de Wiart legacy of prestige and influence. On his mother's side, his grandfather, Joseph Wensig, was an Austrian writer and poet deeply involved in the Czech national revival movement. A man of intellect and culture, Joseph's legacy was one of artistic passion and national pride. From this blend of legal rigor and artistic passion, Adrian's parents emerged. His father, Léon Constant Guislain Carton de Wiart, was a respected Belgian lawyer and politician, a man who embodied the family's tradition of public service. His mother, Ernestine Wenzig, brought a touch of Austrian elegance and intellectual curiosity to the household. Growing up in this world of privilege, young Adrian was surrounded by the trappings of wealth and culture. But even as a child, he showed signs of the restless spirit that would define his life. While other boys played with toys, Adrian dreamed of adventure, of battles fought and victories won. Educated in England at the Oratory School, Adrian was a bright but rebellious student. He briefly attended Oxford University, but the rigid academic life didn't suit him. His heart yearned for something more, something daring, something real. In 1899, war broke out in South Africa, the Second Boer War. For Adrian, it was the call to adventure he had been waiting for. At just 19 years old, he made a decision that would change his life forever. He lied about his age, enlisted in the British Army, and set off for the deserts of South Africa. But the young aristocrat wasn't prepared for what awaited him in the deserts of South Africa, a baptism by fire that would shape the rest of his life. The boy who had grown up in the comfort of European estates was about to face the brutal realities of war. This was where Adrian Carton de Wiart's legend began, but it was only the first chapter in a life that would defy all odds. The year was 1899. The Second Boer War had erupted, pitting the British Empire against the Boer republics of South Africa. For Adrian Carton de Wiart, it was the adventure he had been waiting for. But the reality of war was far harsher than anything he could have imagined. At just 19 years old, Adrian found himself thrust into a brutal conflict. The Boers, skilled marksmen and masters of guerrilla warfare, were a formidable enemy. The British forces, though well-equipped, were unprepared for the harsh conditions and relentless tactics of their opponents. Adrian's first taste of combat came during a skirmish near the Modder River. The Boers had set up defensive positions, and the British were ordered to dislodge them. It was here, in the heat of battle, that Adrian's fearless attitude began to emerge. Bullets whizzed past him as he led his men into battle. The air was thick with the smell of gunpowder and the cries of the wounded. But Adrian didn't flinch. For the first time, he stared death in the face and laughed. It was a baptism by fire. The young aristocrat, who had grown up in the comfort of European estates, was now in the thick of a brutal war. And he thrived on it. His fearlessness under fire earned him the respect of his comrades and the attention of his superiors. But the Boer War was more than just a test of courage. It was a lesson in survival. The harsh conditions, scorching heat, scarce water, and relentless enemy attacks pushed Adrian to his limits. Yet with each challenge, he grew stronger, more resilient, and more determined. One particularly fierce engagement near the Tugela River tested Adrian like never before. The Boers had set up a deadly ambush, and the British forces were caught in a deadly crossfire. Amid the chaos, Adrian's leadership shone through. He rallied his men, organized a counterattack, and managed to turn the tide of the battle. It was here, in the heat of the Boer War, that Adrian Carton de Wiart first learned the true meaning of leadership. He didn't just survive the war, he thrived in it. And as the conflict dragged on, he began to forge the indomitable spirit that would define the rest of his life. But the Boer War was only the beginning. For Adrian, it was the first chapter in a life of adventure, danger, and unyielding courage. And as the dust settled on the South African veld, a new challenge was already calling, one that would take him to the trenches of World War I. By 1914, the world was engulfed in the flames of World War I. For Adrian Carton de Wiart, it was a call to action. The young officer, now hardened by his experiences in the Boer War, was ready to face the horrors of the Western Front. But nothing could have prepared him for the living hell that awaited him in the trenches. The trenches were a nightmare. Mud, blood, and the constant roar of artillery. Disease and death were constant companions. But for Adrian, the chaos was a crucible. It was here, in the trenches of World War I, that he would prove his mettle and earn his place in history. Adrian's first major engagement came during the Battle of the Somme in 1916. It was one of the bloodiest battles in human history, with over 1 million casualties. The British forces were ordered to break through the German lines, but the cost would be staggering. Bullets whizzed past him as he led his men into no man's land. The air was thick with the smell of gunpowder and the cries of the wounded. But Adrian didn't flinch. He charged forward, rallying his men and inspiring them to push through the chaos. It was during this brutal engagement that Adrian's fearless attitude truly shone. Despite the overwhelming odds, he led his men with unwavering courage. But the war wasn't done with him yet. A bullet tore through his face, shattering his left eye and part of his ear. Most men would have been broken by such an injury, but not Adrian. He simply called it a splendid wound and continued to lead his men. His bravery didn't go unnoticed. For his actions during the Battle of the Somme, Adrian was awarded the Victoria Cross, the highest honor for valor in the British military. The citation praised his most conspicuous bravery, coolness, and determination. But the war wasn't done with him yet. Adrian would go on to fight in other major engagements, including the Battle of Passchendaele. Each battle tested his resilience and leadership, but he never wavered. By the end of World War I, Adrian had been wounded 8 times, losing an eye and a hand, but he refused to give up. His indomitable spirit and fearless leadership earned him the respect and admiration of his men and superiors alike. The trenches of World War I were a living hell, but for Adrian Carton de Wiart, they were also a proving ground, a place where he forged the indomitable spirit that would define the rest of his life. And as the war drew to a close, a new challenge was already calling, one that would take him to the frozen battlefields of Poland. By 1919, the world was still reeling from the devastation of World War I. But for Adrian Carton de Wiart, the fight was far from over. As the newly independent Poland faced a new threat, the advancing Soviet Red Army, Adrian found himself at the heart of another conflict. This time, the stakes were even higher. The Polish-Soviet War was a clash of ideologies, communism versus nationalism. For Poland, it was a fight for survival. For Adrian, it was another chance to prove his mettle on the battlefield. Adrian was sent to Poland as part of the British military mission, tasked with advising and supporting the Polish forces. But he quickly became more than just an advisor. His experience, leadership, and fearless attitude made him a key figure in the Polish defense. It was here that Adrian formed a close friendship with Józef Piłsudski, the charismatic leader of Poland. Piłsudski, a former revolutionary and military strategist, recognized Adrian's talents and quickly brought him into his inner circle. Together, they faced the daunting task of defending Poland against the Soviet onslaught. The Red Army, fresh from its victory in the Russian Civil War, was a formidable foe. But Adrian and Piłsudski were determined to hold the line. As the Soviet army advanced, Poland's survival hung in the balance. The Red Army was within striking distance of Warsaw, and the Polish forces were outnumbered and outgunned. But Adrian and Piłsudski had a plan, a daring counterattack that would become known as the Miracle on the Vistula. Adrian was at the heart of the action, leading men into battle once again. His fearless attitude and tactical brilliance were crucial in turning the tide of the battle. Despite the overwhelming odds, he inspired his men to push forward, rallying them with his unyielding spirit. The Battle of Warsaw was a turning point in the war. The Polish forces, led by Piłsudski and supported by Adrian, launched a daring counterattack that caught the Soviets off guard. The Red Army was forced to retreat, and Poland's independence was secured. For Adrian, the Polish-Soviet War was more than just another conflict. It was a chance to make a difference, to fight for a cause he believed in. His efforts earned him the respect and admiration of the Polish people, and he was awarded the Virtuti Militari, Poland's highest military decoration. But the war also took its toll. Adrian had faced death countless times, and the physical and emotional scars were beginning to show. Yet he refused to give up. His indomitable spirit and fearless leadership had once again proven decisive. The Polish-Soviet War was a testament to Adrian's resilience and leadership. It was here, on the frozen battlefields of Poland, that he forged a legacy that would endure long after the war was over. But for Adrian Carton de Wiart, the fight was far from over. As the world moved on from the Polish-Soviet War, A new challenge was already calling, one that would take him to the deserts of North Africa and the mountains of China. But that's a story for another time. For now, let's return to the frozen battlefields of Poland, where Adrian Carton de Wiart was just beginning to discover the man he would become. Behind the fearless soldier and the indomitable adventurer was a man with a deeply personal side. Adrian Carton de Wiart's life was not just defined by battles and escapes, it was also shaped by the relationships he cherished and the love he found along the way. Adrian's first marriage was to Countess Friederike, an Austrian aristocrat from the prestigious Fugger family. Their union in 1908 was one of privilege and tradition, but it was also marked by the strains of Adrian's military career. The demands of Adrian's career often kept him away from home, and the couple grew apart. Despite their two daughters, the marriage eventually ended in divorce. It was a difficult chapter in Adrian's life, but it also set the stage for a new beginning. In 1920, Adrian found love again. Joan Sutherland, an Irish woman with a kind heart and a strong spirit, became his second wife. Their marriage was a partnership built on mutual respect and understanding. Joan was not just a wife, she was Adrian's anchor in a life filled with chaos and danger. Joan's support was unwavering. She stood by Adrian through his many absences, his injuries, and the constant dangers of his military career. Her love and stability provided him with a sense of home, even when he was far away on the battlefield. But even Joan couldn't keep Adrian from the call of adventure. His restless spirit and sense of duty often pulled him away, whether to the frozen battlefields of Poland or the deserts of North Africa. Yet no matter how far he traveled, Joan was always his touchstone, the one constant in a life defined by change. Their letters were a lifeline, a way to stay connected despite the distance. In them, Adrian shared his thoughts, his fears, and his hopes for the future. Joan's replies were a source of comfort and strength, reminding him of what he was fighting for. After the war, Adrian and Joan retired to Ireland, where they found peace and tranquility. It was a chance for Adrian to finally rest, to enjoy the simple pleasures of life with the woman he loved. But even in retirement, his adventurous spirit never faded. Joan's love and support were the foundation of Adrian's later years. She was his confidant, his partner, and his greatest ally. Together, they faced the challenges of life with the same courage and determination that had defined Adrian's career. But even the strongest bonds are tested by time. In 1949, Joan passed away, leaving Adrian devastated. Her death marked the end of a deeply meaningful partnership that had sustained him through decades of adventure and hardship. Adrian's life was one of extraordinary adventure and resilience, but it was also a life shaped by love, by the quiet moments shared with Joan, the letters exchanged across continents, and the unbreakable bond they forged. Behind the fearless soldier was a man who found solace in the love of his wife, Joan. And though she couldn't keep him from the call of adventure, she was always his guiding light. But that's a story for another time. For now, let's return to the personal side of Adrian Carton de Wiart, where love and adventure intertwined in a life unlike any other. Behind the fearless soldier was a man who, like all of us, sought love, companionship, and a sense of home. Adrian Carton de Wiart's personal life was as complex and fascinating as his military career. It was a life marked by love, loss, and the unyielding call of adventure. Adrian's first marriage was to Countess Friederike, an Austrian aristocrat from the prestigious Fugger family. Their union, in 1908, was one of privilege and tradition. Together they had two daughters, and for a time it seemed that Adrian had found the stability he had always lacked. But the life of a soldier is not easily reconciled with the demands of family. Adrian's long absences and relentless pursuit of adventure put a strain on their marriage. Despite their love for each other, the couple eventually divorced, leaving Adrian to face the world alone once more. In 1920, Adrian found love again. Joan Sutherland, an Irish woman with a quiet strength and unwavering support, became his second wife. Their marriage was a partnership built on mutual respect and understanding. Joan was the anchor that kept Adrian grounded, even as the call of adventure continued to pull him away. Joan was more than just a wife. She was Adrian's confidant and his greatest supporter. Through the chaos of war and the challenges of his military career, she remained a constant presence in his life. But even she couldn't keep him from the call of adventure. Their love was a testament to the strength of the human spirit. Despite the dangers and uncertainties, Adrian and Joan's bond remained unbroken. It was a love that endured through the darkest of times and the brightest of triumphs. But Adrian's personal life was just one part of his extraordinary story. From the trenches of Europe to the frozen battlefields of Poland, he proved that no challenge was too great and no enemy too formidable. Adrian's adaptability and leadership were the hallmarks of his military career. Whether leading a charge in the trenches of World War I, advising Polish forces in the Battle of Warsaw, or escaping from Italian captivity during World War II, he faced every challenge with courage and determination. His ability to adapt to new theaters of war and lead men through the most dire circumstances was unmatched. He was a master of strategy, a fearless leader, and a man who thrived in the chaos of battle. But Adrian's legacy is more than just a series of military triumphs. It is a testament to the power of resilience, leadership, and the indomitable human spirit. His life reminds us that no matter how dark the night, the dawn will always come. As we continue to explore the life of Adrian Carton de Wiart, let us remember the man behind the legend, a man who found solace in the love of his wife, Joan, and who faced every challenge with unwavering courage and determination. After the Polish-Soviet War, Adrian Carton de Wiart returned to a quieter life. He and Joan settled in Ireland, where they hoped to find peace and stability. But for a man who had spent his life on the front lines, peace was a foreign concept. Joan was his anchor, the one constant in a life defined by chaos. She provided the stability he needed, but even she couldn't quell the restlessness that drove him. Adrian was a man of action, and the quiet life of retirement didn't suit him. He filled his days with the things he loved, hunting in the Irish countryside, fishing in quiet streams, and reflecting on his extraordinary life. But even these simple pleasures couldn't silence the call of adventure that echoed in his heart. It was during this time that Adrian began to write his memoirs, Happy Odyssey. The title reflected his optimistic outlook on life, even after enduring so much hardship. But as he put pen to paper, he couldn't help but feel that his story was far from over. The world was changing once again. The rise of fascism in Europe and the growing threat of another global conflict stirred something deep within Adrian. He had survived the trenches of World War I and the frozen battlefields of Poland. But now a new storm was brewing, one that would test him like never before. In 1939, as the drums of war began to beat once more, Adrian received a call to action. The British Army needed him again. At nearly 60 years old, most men would have declined, but Adrian wasn't most men. Joan knew better than to try to stop him. She had always understood that Adrian's place was on the front lines, leading men and facing danger head-on. As he prepared to leave, she whispered a simple goodbye, knowing that their love would endure, no matter the distance. As the ship set sail, Adrian looked out at the horizon, his mind filled with thoughts of the battles to come. He had faced death countless times, but this new war would test him in ways he couldn't yet imagine. The interwar years were a time of reflection and preparation for Adrian Carton de Wiart. They were a reminder that even in moments of peace, the call of adventure was never far away. And as the world plunged into another global conflict, Adrian was ready to answer that call once more. By 1941, World War II was in full swing, and Adrian Carton de Wiart was once again in the thick of it. Sent to North Africa as part of the British forces, he found himself facing a new enemy, the Italian army. But even the harsh deserts of North Africa couldn't prepare him for what was to come. During a mission to Yugoslavia, Adrian's plane was forced to land in the Mediterranean due to engine trouble. He and his team were quickly captured by Italian forces. For a man who had spent his life escaping danger, captivity was a new kind of challenge. The POW camp was a grim place, high walls, barbed wire, and the constant watch of armed guards. But for Adrian, it was just another battlefield. He had cheated death countless times, and he wasn't about to let a few walls and guards stop him. Adrian's first escape attempt was a tunnel. Along with other prisoners, he began digging in secret, using whatever tools they could scavenge. The work was slow and dangerous, but Adrian's determination never wavered. For months, they worked in secret, disposing of the dirt by scattering it in the camp's garden. The tunnel grew longer, and hope grew stronger. But just as they were nearing completion, disaster struck. The tunnel was discovered, and the escape attempt failed. But for Adrian, failure was just a temporary setback. He had faced worse odds before, and he wasn't about to give up. His next opportunity came during a train transfer. As the train rattled through the Italian countryside, Adrian saw his chance. The guards were distracted, and the train was slowing down. It was now or never. With a deep breath, Adrian leapt from the moving train, tumbling into the darkness. The impact was brutal, but he didn't stop. He couldn't stop. The sound of the train faded into the distance, but the danger was far from over. Alone in the darkness, with no food, no water, and no idea where he was, Adrian faced his greatest challenge yet. But for a man who had cheated death countless times, this was just another chapter in a life defined by survival. For days, Adrian evaded capture, living off the land and moving at night. But the Italian soldiers were relentless, and eventually he was recaptured. Yet even in defeat, Adrian's spirit remained unbroken. Adrian's escape attempts were a testament to his indomitable spirit. Even in the face of overwhelming odds, he refused to give up. His determination and resourcefulness inspired his fellow prisoners and earned the grudging respect of his captors. But the war wasn't done with Adrian Carton de Wiart. As the world plunged deeper into conflict, he would face new challenges and new opportunities to prove his mettle. And as always, he would face them head-on, with courage and determination. By 1943, the world was deep in the throes of World War II, and Adrian Carton de Wiart found himself in a new and unfamiliar theater of war, the mountains of China. Appointed as Winston Churchill's personal representative to Chiang Kai-shek, the leader of nationalist China, Adrian faced a new kind of battle, one of diplomacy, strategy, and survival. China was a world away from the trenches of Europe and the deserts of North Africa. Here the war was fought not just with guns and tanks, but with alliances, negotiations, and the delicate balance of power. For Adrian, it was a new challenge, one that would test his adaptability and leadership in ways he had never imagined. Chiang Kai-shek, the leader of nationalist China, was a complex and formidable figure. His forces were locked in a bitter struggle against the Japanese invaders, as well as an ongoing civil war with the Chinese Communist Party. Adrian's task was to strengthen the alliance between China and the Allies, and to ensure that Chiang's forces remained a key player in the fight against Japan. Adrian quickly earned Chiang's respect with his straightforward manner, tactical expertise, and unyielding determination. Together, they worked to coordinate Allied support for China's war effort, from supplies and equipment to strategic planning. But even here, in the relative safety of the command center, danger was never far away. The mountains of China were a treacherous place, with narrow, winding roads and constant threats from Japanese forces and bandits. Adrian's missions often took him deep into enemy territory, where the line between friend and foe was blurred, and danger lurked around every corner. One such mission nearly ended in disaster. As Adrian's convoy made its way through a narrow mountain pass, they were ambushed by Japanese forces. Bullets whizzed past and explosions rocked the ground. For a moment, it seemed that even Adrian's legendary luck had run out. But Adrian wasn't about to give up. With his trademark fearlessness and tactical brilliance, he rallied his men and led a daring counterattack. The Japanese forces were driven back, and the convoy escaped with minimal losses. It was a testament to Adrian's leadership and unyielding spirit. Despite the dangers, Adrian's time in China was marked by moments of profound connection and understanding. He developed a deep respect for the Chinese people and their resilience in the face of unimaginable hardship. And though the war was far from over, Adrian knew that his efforts were making a difference. As the war dragged on, Adrian continued to work tirelessly, coordinating Allied support and advising Chiang Kai-shek on strategy. His efforts helped to keep China in the fight, tying down Japanese forces and buying precious time for the Allies in other theaters of war. But even as the war in China raged on, Adrian knew that his time there was drawing to a close. The world was changing, and new challenges awaited him. Yet, as always, he faced the future with courage and determination. After a lifetime of adventure, danger, and unyielding courage, Adrian Carton de Wiart finally found peace in the quiet countryside of Ireland. Here, far from the battlefields and the chaos of war, he began a new chapter of his life, one of reflection, writing, and quiet contentment. Joan, his steadfast companion and greatest supporter, was by his side as always. Together they created a home filled with warmth and love, a sanctuary from the storms of his past. But even in this peaceful setting, Adrian's restless spirit couldn't be entirely stilled. Adrian spent his days hunting, fishing, and exploring the rugged beauty of the Irish landscape. These simple pleasures brought him a sense of fulfillment, but they also stirred memories of the adventures he had left behind. It was during this time that Adrian began to write his memoirs, Happy Odyssey. The title reflected his optimistic outlook on life, even after enduring so much hardship. In its pages, he recounted his extraordinary journey, from the trenches of World War I to the mountains of China and everything in between. Writing the memoir was a labor of love, a chance to reflect on the triumphs and tragedies that had shaped his life. Adrian's dry wit and candid storytelling brought his adventures to life, offering readers a glimpse into the mind of a man who had stared death in the face and laughed. In Happy Odyssey, Adrian didn't shy away from the harsh realities of war. He wrote about the pain, the loss, and the sacrifices he had made. But he also celebrated the camaraderie, the courage, and the unyielding spirit that had carried him through. Joan was his first and most devoted reader. She had been with him through every chapter of his life, and now she was there to witness the final one. Their love was a testament to the strength of the human spirit, a bond that had endured through the darkest of times and the brightest of triumphs. But even in retirement, Adrian's spirit remained unbroken. He continued to live life on his own terms, embracing each day with the same courage and determination that had defined his earlier years. Adrian's memoir, Happy Odyssey, was published to critical acclaim. Readers around the world were captivated by his extraordinary story, and he became a symbol of resilience and courage. Yet despite the accolades, Adrian remained humble, always quick to deflect praise and credit his comrades. In his later years, Adrian became a beloved figure in his community. His stories of adventure and survival inspired countless others, and his indomitable spirit served as a reminder that no matter how dark the night, the dawn will always come. Adrian Carton de Wiart passed away on June 5, 1963, at the age of 83. His life was a testament to the power of resilience, leadership, and the indomitable human spirit. He had faced death countless times, but he had never been defeated. Adrian Carton de Wiart's legacy lives on, not just in the pages of his memoir, but in the hearts of those who knew him and the countless others who have been inspired by his extraordinary life. He was a man who refused to be broken, a man who stared death in the face and laughed. Adrian Carton de Wiart's life was a testament to the power of resilience, courage, and the indomitable human spirit. From the trenches of World War I to the mountains of China, he faced every challenge with unwavering determination and an unyielding will to survive. But what can we learn from his extraordinary journey? Adrian's story is one of resilience, of getting back up no matter how many times life knocks you down. He lost an eye, a hand, and endured countless injuries, yet he never gave up. His ability to endure pain and keep moving forward is a powerful lesson for us all. It's also a story of leadership, of leading by example and inspiring others through your actions. Adrian didn't just give orders. He led from the front, facing the same dangers as his men. His courage and determination earned him the respect and loyalty of those who followed him. But perhaps the most important lesson from Adrian's life is the power of the human spirit. He faced death countless times, yet he never lost his sense of humor or his love of adventure. His ability to find joy and purpose in the midst of chaos is a reminder that no matter how dark the night, the dawn will always come. Adrian's life was also a testament to the importance of love and companionship. Joan, his steadfast companion and greatest supporter, was a constant presence in his life. Their love endured through the darkest of times and the brightest of triumphs, a reminder that we are stronger together than we are alone. In his later years, Adrian became a beloved figure in his community. His stories of adventure and survival inspired countless others, and his indomitable spirit served as a beacon of hope and resilience. Adrian Carton de Wiart's life was a testament to the power of resilience, courage, and the indomitable human spirit. But his story isn't just about him, it's about all of us. It's a reminder that we all face challenges, and it's how we respond to those challenges that defines us. Let's take a moment to reflect on Adrian's journey and what it means for us. What would you have done in his situation? Imagine yourself in the trenches of World War I, facing enemy fire in unimaginable danger. Could you have found the courage to keep going, as Adrian did? Think about the choices Adrian made, the risks he took, the sacrifices he endured. What would you have done differently? What lessons can we draw from his experiences? Resilience is a word we often hear, but what does it really mean? For Adrian, it meant getting back up no matter how many times life knocked him down. It meant facing danger head-on even when the odds were against him. But resilience can mean different things to different people. How do you define resilience? Is it the ability to endure pain and keep moving forward? Is it the strength to face your fears and overcome them? Or is it something else entirely? Take a moment to think about what resilience means to you and how you've demonstrated it in your own life. Adrian's life was driven by a sense of duty, a love of adventure, and an unyielding spirit. But what drives you to keep going in the face of adversity? Is it your family, your goals, or something deeper? Think about the challenges you faced and what kept you moving forward. We all face challenges in life, but it's how we respond to those challenges that defines us. Adrian's story is a reminder that no matter how dark the night, the dawn will always come. But it's up to us to keep moving forward, to find the strength and courage to face whatever comes our way. Adrian's life offers countless lessons about resilience, leadership, and the power of the human spirit. But how can we apply those lessons to our own lives? Think about the challenges you're facing right now. How can Adrian's story inspire you to overcome them? Perhaps it's by finding the courage to face your fears, or by leading by example and inspiring others. Maybe it's by embracing the challenges you face and finding joy and purpose in the midst of chaos. Whatever it is, take a moment to think about how Adrian's story can inspire you to be your best self. Adrian Carton de Wiart left behind a legacy of resilience, courage, and unyielding spirit. But what legacy do you want to leave behind? Think about the impact you want to have on the world and the lessons you want to pass on to future generations. Adrian's life reminds us that we all have the power to make a difference, no matter how big or small. So take a moment to reflect on your own journey and the legacy you want to leave behind. And remember, no matter how dark the night, the dawn will always come. Adrian Carton de Wiart's life was a testament to the power of resilience, courage, and the indomitable human spirit. His story is one of adventure, danger, and unyielding determination. As we come to the end of this journey, take a moment to reflect on what you've learned from Adrian's life. What lessons will you carry with you? How will his story inspire you to face your own challenges with courage and determination? Adrian's life reminds us that we all have the power to make a difference, no matter how big or small. So take a moment to reflect on your own journey and the legacy you want to leave behind. If Adrian's story has inspired you, there's so much more to explore. Dive deeper into his life by reading his memoir, Happy Odyssey, or researching his incredible exploits. His story is a treasure trove of lessons and inspiration, waiting to be discovered. And if you're hungry for more stories of courage and resilience, check out our other content. Don't miss out on our latest videos. Subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all our survival and historical stories. Whether it's tales of bravery, leadership, or the indomitable human spirit, we've got something for everyone. And if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Let's spread the inspiration and keep the legacy of heroes like Adrian Carton de Wiart alive. We'd love to hear your thoughts. What did you find most inspiring about Adrian's story? How has his journey impacted you? Join the conversation in the comments below and share your reflections with our community. Adrian Carton de Wiart's legacy lives on, not just in the pages of his memoir, but in the hearts of those who knew him and the countless others who have been inspired by his extraordinary life. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and we can't wait to see you in the next video.